Hey, I'm Brian Van, SportbikeTracker.com, and today we're going to break down the Flash Tune ABS Delete install on our 2018 Kawasaki Ninja 400 STG project bike. Okay, we're making the little Ninja into a proper race bike now. This bike came from the factory with anti-lock brakes. We are in the process of eliminating this. You've probably already noticed this whole bike is torn apart. We're shooting multiple installs during one state of disassembly. Why, you ask? Well, that's because I'm under the gun. I need to have this bike done in 1 week, and I got a lot of stuff to do right now. It's actually under a week, and we have a holiday coming, so it's going to be interesting. Taking a bike and making it a race bike, the ABS is really not going to be appropriate. For a street bike, it's a wonderful rider aid, especially on a beginner to an intermediate bike like the Ninja 400. It can really bail your ass out of a sticky situation, and that's a wonderful thing. But on the racetrack, you're going to want a direct connection between this front master cylinder, your hands, and those brakes, right? You need to have all the feel with nothing in between. My experience, and many other riders, has dictated that that's just the right way to do it. On these ABS equipped bikes, you need to understand there's more here than just a valve that modulates the brake pressure. There's also a control module. This bike is a little simpler than, say, our GSXR 1000R. We have all the rider aids, the wheelie control, the traction control, all these things, right? The launch control. This bike doesn't have all that. Still, you can't just unplug this thing and throw it out without having impact on other things. On this bike, given its simple systems, right? Putting this in place of this whole valve and module, we're going to lose a little weight on the bike, which is nice. We'll talk about how much that is later on. But we're also going to preserve the functionality of the speedometer, and we're going to continue that signal from the wheel speed sensors, right? And also the alive signal from this module to the ECU. And when you have a bike or you have a car that has multiple modules that are communicating over data lines, it is always best practice to simply preserve said communication. You don't want to break the loop. As I said earlier, this bike is already torn apart. We're shooting another video where we're focusing on installing the Spiegler non-ABS race brake line kit on our Ninja 400. Okay, so you can look for that as well. In this video, we're going to focus on simply removing this unit, how much it weighs, and what it takes to plug in the FT-ECU ABS delete. If you want to see the brake line install, you'll have to look for that independent video, and we'll show you every step of the way what it takes to get this done. Okay, the bike's already torn down. Clearly, we've got the airbox off, we've got the tank off, all the bodywork, lots of access here because we're installing the non-ABS brake lines at the same time. Once you have the lines removed, let's go ahead and focus on pulling the ABS block, brake pressure modulator, from the bike. We've got a 10 mil hex fastener here on a little bracket. I mean, this thing's just kind of barely held on there. I mean, I suppose that's all right. It's a small part, not very heavy. I know when I pulled this thing out of my Gixxer, that was definitely a little more labor intensive than what I got going on here right now. So I got 2 bolts, one's on the side over here. It's a 10 mil hex, really just coming in from the side. It's self-explanatory. You get the bike torn down, you'll clearly see what needs to be done. Now I want you to just rotate this thing back. Let's see. Yeah, okay, that's it. That is literally all that needs to happen. Okay, now we have our connector here. We need to find the lock. Release it like so, and I'll show you where that is once I get this unplugged. Okay, it'll make it easier for me. I'm going to go ahead and take this now and just tip it. Let it drain a little bit. We will have Caleb get a little weight on this for us just to see how much we're actually saving. Seat of the pants survey says 2 pounds. So not a tremendous weight savings, but it will clean up this area as well. Okay, I just went ahead and plugged the thing back in. It's the only way for me to really show you what it's going to take to release the connector here. You need to depress right in the center here. Hopefully you can see that right where my index finger is. You need to push down. And when you push down in the center, it is really evident what you need to do. When you have it in your hands, you'll see it clearly. Push down while putting a little pressure up on this. Rotate it out of the way like so, and you're able to pull it right off the bike. I'll show you here with the connector in my hand, what you're pushing on is this right here. Here is our FT ECU delete. This is a real race part, off-road use only kind of thing, okay? You're not gonna find a whole bunch of instructions in there, right? And so hopefully this video helps you. I want you to hold on to the plug and remove the foam. Everything you're gonna do that concerns these ends is done with kid gloves, right? You wanna be very careful, soft hands. And there you can see all the terminals, okay, the pins. You wanna make damn sure you don't bend these. You get one shot at this, and if you bend them when you're installing it, that's gonna be on you. You're not gonna get a replacement one. So when you get that foam pulled off, I want you to look at these and make sure they all look perfectly straight once you've removed it. If one of them's bent over and you received it that way, you need to contact us before you try to install anything. They're very careful over there at FlashTune. Honestly, I've never actually heard of anyone receiving one with bent pins. Now, let's grab that connector, and this looks just like the one on the Suzuki we just did. If you look at this, you'll see there's a tab on this side and there's not a tab on this side. This tab is going to correspond with the opening right here in this connector, okay? What I did on the Suzuki that I felt really made a lot of sense is I actually went ahead and I removed this lock because I'm never going to use the ABS again. That's a done deal for me. And removing this makes securing that delete plug a whole heck of a lot easier. So that's just what I did on that bike. I'm not sure that I would say it's 100% required, but it did seem to me to get a much better finished result. So I'm just going to release that. So I'm just put a little pressure back there. That screwdriver, trying to release the pegs there. Okay, glasses are on. Everything looks bigger. So let's go ahead and get it into position, and then you want to put just a little bit of pressure on it. Very easy, yes. And it just started to dip in. What you don't want to do is get it to what you think is lined up and put a ton of pressure on it and push. Odds are, if it didn't dip in easy and you put pressure on it, you're just going to damage it, and then you're going to have to order a new one. You don't want to put yourself in that position. I got that to slide in. Now I'm just going to keep nice, even pressure and get it seated all the way. Let's take a good look around it, because this is still, it's going into a weather pack connector. This needs to be waterproof. You don't want to do anything that's going to introduce corrosion into that, right? Because that will cause electrical issues you do not want to deal with down the road. Take those glasses off because I don't need them now. And we're going to secure this with using just simple cable ties. By design, you weren't able to reuse the same retainer for the connector. That's why I pulled it off. But you do have to do something. You see they have these grooves that are molded into the delete. I didn't ask them if this was the case or not, but to me it just makes sense that, yeah, those are meant to hold the cable tie. Let's go ahead and slide that through. Like so. And we are good to go. The ABS, brake pressure modulator, has been removed. And now our system will function normally when it's gone. All right, let's begin to button this bad boy up. We got an air box that's got to go back on here. I pulled the rags that I had wound up in there. I also used a blowgun just to blow it out, just to head to my bed. You want to make sure that those are completely clean. You don't have anything that's going to fall inside the engine. Get this bracket back in place. This does have the throttle cables routing through it, so you want to make sure that you've got that in there and installed correctly. This bracket needs to be left on the bike. You know, what I didn't take into account before when I started to tie some of this stuff up was this very bracket. So we're going to go ahead and use it to hold these connectors. It's going to be pretty sweet, actually. All right, so we're going to be able to do some stuff here, make it look good. Okay, lock in place there, and even this, I really like that. We're gonna be able to tie that bad boy up on there. Piece of cake. It's gonna look really good. Grab another cable tie here. I grab cable ties, I use every one.
I swear you had one.
I got 50 pounds of cable ties on the bike now. Okay. Okay, and here's what I'm gonna do here. Slide that actually under the ties that I already have placed there. That way I can mount it to that surface nice and flush. I gotta tell you, I'm actually pretty happy with that. That's pretty bitchin'. Looks nice, and it's gonna hold everything together real well. Tail off of that. This looks semi-professional. Semi-pro. All right, throttle cable, I'm gonna double check that. Starting to think we might get this bike ready. Okay, there you have it. The bike is all back together and we're race ready. Excited to take this thing to Grattan Raceway, 4th of July weekend with Sportbike Track Time. If you have any questions, what it takes, you need some help with your Ninja 400 project, I answer all the YouTube comments myself, depending on the volume, depends on how long it takes to get them done. But please leave your comment here and I'll be happy to help you get your project done right.